here. Thanks everybody for being flexible. Switching to the Google Meet. I hope nobody missed that and is driving to the boardroom.
Right.
Hopefully, we sent a reminder out, so hopefully everybody's on. And if not, they could jump on in the next couple minutes. I want to first start with letting everybody know that the meeting will be recorded, so so that we have for our records. And I believe 10 is doing that. So
The union has no objection to that.
okay, thank you. So first, our agenda today. First, again, welcome everybody. Thanks for taking your time out of your day to meet with us. Today, I'll try to keep our end of it, moving quickly. I don't. There's not a ton that we have to cover, but we'll dig in where we need to. But we will first start with, response to the salary increases request that you had last session. We will review the district proposals that we have, many of which are really just efforts to clean up some language that might not really apply to how operations are these days. We'll also revisit union proposals from last session and talk about the next steps.
The union would like to, at the end of the session around next steps, also present a couple additional proposals in our supervisory and our regular unit.
Okay. All right. So first, I know this is a hot topic, so I'm going to put it out there right now. Salary discussions. Everybody wants to know what's going on with that. Where we're at is that we are still waiting for data from the state before we can fully evaluate our financial outlook for the upcoming school year. So we're really not ready to give any input there. Once we do have this data, our Chief Financial Officer, Heather Frederick, will be making a presentation to the group so that we can really show you where we're at and what our status is for the upcoming year. I'll keep you posted on when that. Yes.
Quick question is, do you guys have a target date when Ms. Frederick and the district feel that you'll be able to really bring forth that proposal, the presentation?
It wouldn't be until the end of February or sometime in March.
February, March, okay. Thank you.
Late February or March.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So we'll start with our paraprofessionals 2 and early childhood professionals agreement, broken all the requests, into based on the collective bargaining agreement. So in here, as I mentioned, really a lot of it's just trying to clean things up. In section 1 of posting vacancies, all job openings shall be posted internally for 5 calendar days prior to external posting. I'm not sure how long that's been in the agreement, but given that we already give first consideration to applicants within the department, employee transfers are very common in the district. Extending the period of time before we can even consider an external candidate just results in a longer period of time of having a vacancy. And when we're already facing such severe staffing shortages throughout the district, and it's throughout the nation, how many jobs are open right now, it just puts an extra amount of work on the existing staff that are already there. So this isn't something trying to get around, hiring current, our employees for transfers or people within the department. It's just if we need to be able to hire some other people, and waiting 5 days really just delays the amount of time we get somebody in that job. So, and under G, the union will be advised by the district of any decision not to fill vacant positions. Notification shall be made within 5 days of the decision. The thing about, you probably don't know this, but I have a long, lengthy HR background, and these types of decisions can change frequently. You might not be filling it right now, but then, somebody else resigned, so I need to fill this position. And I think the best way to approach this is just to look at it as, if the job is posted online in our careers page in PeopleSoft, then our intent is to fill it. Otherwise, it's just not, we're not trying to fill it. And it would be removed or not present on the careers page.
For reference, for those following along, sorry, Tim, it's just not on the screen. This is in the ECP para contract. This is Article 16, Section 1.
Sorry, I think I do have the article listed in most, but apologize for that not being in this one. All right. Any questions on this before we go to the next?
Okay, so basically, it's the district's concern, and I don't want to I could also hold questions until you present everything, if that would be easier to get through it. But I guess quick question I have is, because you're trying to basically reduce the amount of time that a vacancy remains vacant and can be filled, that is the gist of the concern from the employer's perspective, or you know?
Absolutely.
Okay. We'll definitely discuss on our end.
Okay. All right. Now this Article 10, Section 3, payroll procedures A and C. It referenced the bargaining agreements reference that this last slide and this slide, you're going to see this. It's in every agreement, right? That the district will work with employees who do not have an account with a financial institution to establish an account with a credit union to provide for these electronic deposits. So this is saying that if you don't have a bank account, the district's going to help you go set up a bank account. And really, we're not staffed to be able to do something like that. And to be completely honest, I'm not so sure I understand why, you know, anybody would want me to come, let's just say me or any district employee, to go help them set up their bank account. It's an unnecessary person included in this work, I think. So this was from our payroll department who just felt like this was something that maybe happened years back, but not so sure that it's necessary to be in the agreements, because we also don't really think that we can or need to facilitate this for our employees. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, we'll review on our end.
Okay.
I do think that I want to say this conversation goes back about a decade or so, because there were many within the ECP paras who weren't bankable at that time, but that might have been flipped in terms of how many people have access to credit unions or banks.
Okay.
We'll review. We'll take a look.
Sure. All right. This is also from our payroll department, Article 9, Section 3, summer school. What we're looking to add to this section is that employees these are for temporary jobs, where, you know, it's not part of their regular duties, and if they miss work, you know, somebody else has to be hired or perform that job for that day, or however many days that person's not there. So really what we're just looking to add is to make it very clear that employees who miss work days during these summer programs, it will be unpaid, and they can't use any accumulated paid leave for these absences for a temporary position.
I could further make a records request. Do we have this happening in, you know, any significant amounts? I don't know that most ECPs or paras do participate. I want to say it's probably a small portion of them.
Well, if this language is actually found in all, at least 2 of the bargaining agreements. I think the para, ECP para, and the regular. I don't believe it's in the supervisory. I can't recall. I don't believe it is, but I don't know that this is an issue necessarily. But I guess really where we're going with it is that it just looking to clean things up to make sure that everybody is aware, because I'm sure this came from our payroll department. So I'm sure what is happening is they probably get requests and they have to deny it because you can't get paid. You know, you can't use your sick time for these days. I think that's maybe where this is coming from.
Gotcha.
Yes, Garrett, do you have a question?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have a question about this, because it's saying you wouldn't be paid but in the summer you get three. They give us 3 days that, for whatever reason, you're out sick or whatever, and after that 3 days, then you would lose your spot for the summer. Is that saying they're taking those 3 sick days for the summer away?
Not that I'm aware, but I'll look into that specific instance.
It's just something that's provided to the bus drivers for working the summer school. And after that 3 day period of sick days, then you would lose your spot automatically and it's replaced by that person. I'm just trying to make sure I'm not misunderstanding anything and that the 3 days aren't being taken away from us. That's what I'm trying to make sure or find out.
Okay. I will look into that a little bit more with our payroll director, and we'll revisit that. All right. And that was all we had for the ECP and para.
Okay.
So next we have our regular contract. And before we get into that, I just want to make everybody aware of one of the efforts that we're currently working on. We definitely recognize the staffing challenges we have throughout the district. And like I said, it's throughout the nation. But for us, particularly with bus drivers, and these staffing shortages, we know place a real heavy burden on those the bus drivers you currently have and the supervisors to make sure that we're able to run our operations. So what we're trying to do, we're drafting right now, is a bus driver referral incentive, so that we can help staff these positions, and it would provide a financial incentive to employees who refer external candidates hired as a bus driver. We don't have the full details of this agreement yet, but when we do, and we're working on it now, so I do expect it to be, moving forward pretty quickly. We'll bring it to a future bargaining session for us to go through, get some input, and at least make you aware of where we're at with everything. Mr. Fields.
Good afternoon.
Can you turn your volume up, Lehman?
I think
Hello?
There you are. Better.
Okay. I had to unplug my headphones, but my question is, with the bus driver referral incentive, I do understand that we have a shortage of bus drivers, but I'm wondering if the district is doing something for the maintenance department also, because we're short-staffed in that department as well, where I'm wondering what is the district considering on doing to recruit more tradesmen or tradeswomen to come to the district, and to also keep those that are here from leaving.
I do not have that information right now, but I will look into it and I'll provide it to you in the group. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Regarding the incentive, we had, prior to yourself and Mr. Bogus coming in, doing the bargaining for the district, we had some of these discussions with Miss Evans-Pere and Miss Marsh around something similar. And obviously, I think you've already stated that the details are going to be, not finalized and they're yet to come. But is it more of the line of, I'm thinking of practicality of it. Is it more of a lump sum scenario or something that would be based off of additional, for example, if I can recruit somebody to work as a school bus driver and they stay 6 months, a year, 2 years, what have you, there could be an addition to base pay rates, because I know that is something that in our conversation with the district, I want to say 6-8 months ago, that was a back and forth conversation we were looking at.
Okay. As you mentioned, we don't have the details finalized yet. I don't believe that we're looking at any base rate increases, but we can at least discuss it or consider it. I just don't know that we would be able to do that. What we were looking into was a lump sum incentive, just for people once they get hired, and they would likely have to stay on for a certain number of days first, before they would get it.
All right, thank you.
So we are reviewing some some referral programs from other districts throughout the country just to see what things they offer. But we will get that in front of you, at least for some review as soon as we can.
Thank you.
Okay. This is the summer school one again. So same as what we saw in the para, but I know we have some questions on that. And I'll go back to payroll to get some input on who might be getting paid in the summer, to make sure that this isn't supposed to result in anybody losing something that they did have. It was just an effort to clarify, I guess, what happens when you don't work in your temporary job. Okay. Same thing as we saw previously.
Yeah. In the same conversation, I believe Garrett had brought up a few minutes ago,
Exactly.
is that that might be in conflict with the rest of the agreement.
Yep. I will check. This is again the same as what we saw. This job posting and selection. You're seeing this in every contract. The same thing here. Posting it 5 days internally before you can make an external posting, and informing the union when a vacant position we're not selecting to fill the position. So this is again just an effort to really make sure that we can fill these positions when we know across the district, as even some of you have already mentioned, how many shortages we have as far as vacant positions. So okay.
Yep.
This one was brought forward by transportation, midday, and activity assignments and bidding. So what they are requesting is that when a driver rejects his or her bidded midday or activity assignment for a period of 10 consecutive days, the midday or activity will be posted for bid at the discretion of the Director of Transportation.
Okay, so we walk through this. So a driver, quote unquote, rejects it. I guess the first question I have as an initial thought would be, what would constitute rejecting it? Would it be a driver submitting in writing that I no longer choose to fulfill the terms of that bidded midday or activity assignment? Or is it 10 days that they might be out sick? I mean, I guess the first question there would be, what does that constitute? Because you might get into sort of an FMLA issue, or someone's out, COVID, what have you.
Right. Yeah, that did come up, and that's where we didn't want to just leave it at 10 consecutive days to say that, oh, you weren't here for 10 days, you're out. But there definitely, I think, needs to be some more work done with transportation to determine when that happens and for what instances. So I can get back with Shane and Crystal to discuss and provide more criteria, I guess, is what you're looking for, right?
Yeah, I guess on the front end for that criteria, and then the second end, if you look at the paragraph in your proposal that would add that. So I guess the hypothetical here would be, for example, what's the discretion of the Director of Transportation? Does that mean to hold that bid out for a longer period, or because we have right here, it occurs, will be posted to bid within 5 days of that vacated midday. So, for example, if on the front end the driver rejects that midday after the 10 days, boom, that paragraph above should be pretty clear on how that is already being done. I guess what instances would require, from the employer's perspective, a need to I would assume it would be delaying it, or I guess you could argue that it would be speeding it up.
Right. Okay. Crystal, I think you raised your hand.
Yeah, I can clarify this one. So there's a difference between vacated and rejection. So the vacated would be if the person leaves the position or moves, right? That's a vacated midday that would go up after 5 days, or it would be posted for 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I came in today and I don't want to do my activity or midday for today, 10 days in a row. And the reason why we're asking for this is because there are folks who are here consistently covering either middays or activities. And then there are folks who, at the beginning of the year, they may get a midday or an activity and they don't do them because they're not required to do the extra work, right? And so they hold on to the midday as ownership, but in terms of covering it, they're not actually covering it. So we feel like that those activities and middays should then go to the employees who are here and actually doing the work. So we're just asking that it look right on paper what's actually happening. For the drivers who are here and covering their middays and activities, it's not really an issue. It's for those who own these middays or activities and are not actively running these routes. So I hope that makes it clear.
No, thank you for the clarification. For any of my transportation folks, I want to have you weigh in. From your perspective, is this something that is happening? And I would assume it's happening because the district wouldn't go through the trouble of putting a proposal together if they didn't think it was happening. So for my transportation folks, from your perspective, what is your initial thoughts on this proposal from the district? Or we can hold and caucus on it. Up to you. Go ahead, Garrett. Or Rhonda?
I got a couple questions on it, but I think we should talk about this one afterwards because there's a few things in here that I have questions about, and you might want to take notes and ask them later.
Super. Rhonda, I had you also with your hand up.
Yes, Garrett basically said what I was going to say. I think we're going, because there are a couple of questions that I have myself.
Okay. And Carrie, I see your hand up as well. You're muted.
No, we can't hear you, Carrie. You're muted. You have to unmute yourself, Miss Carrie.
It looked like you had it a second ago. Yeah.
There you go. You had it on a second there.
Yeah. Oh, well, good afternoon, everyone. And I was gonna say the same thing that Mr. Garrett and Wanda said, that after we finish the meeting, we can have a discussion on that, Joy, and get back on that part.
Super.
I agree. That's what I'm
Okay.
gonna say.
Thank you. Spare drivers. So Shane could provide some more info on this, but and I really couldn't find this in the agreement to know where it would go.
Yeah.
But apparently, the extra, goes on. Drivers don't want to be spare driver because the extra work is assigned to most senior drivers. So he's really struggling to kind of secure.
Oh, hold on, Carrie, can you mute yourself?
Mute phones. You're not muted, Carrie.
Did I mute?
Yeah.
Did I mute? Did I mute?
Not muted yet.
Yes.
There you go.
Thank you, Aaron.
All right, 561 ending in 39. Please mute as well.
I'll tell them I'm gonna see you.
Okay.
All right. Have a nice day. I'm thanks for your help.
Thank you. All right. So Shane's concern was that spare drivers, people don't want to be spare drivers because they don't they're not able to pick up the extra work associated with the routes that they're covering when, you know, regular driver is absent or maybe assigned to some other duties. So if you have any questions here, Shane could probably chime in, and or Crystal, to explain this more.
Yeah, I know we've had some discussions on this on our end in the past, you know, this particular round and in previous rounds. Shane, I would, if you do have some input, I'd like to hear it, because, you know, we kind of have, I think at different compounds, it's a different issue.
So what I get when I go to the compounds, a number of drivers, and particularly at Central and the last round I made a few before, prior to COVID, when we made this change, the guys who have been spearing, and some of them have been spearing for years, they were beyond upset with us, saying that we went and changed the contract language, because before they used to be able, if they were a spear, that's one of the reasons why they would bid spear. And when they do bid this in the past, our spear driver pool was always the first to get filled. What eventually happened when we made this change is nobody ended up bidding spears. And then when we had, let's say a driver didn't come into work and we have to ask another driver to cover, they don't want to do an extra route. They don't want to, and that's would be what the spear driver would be. So along with the driver shortages that we have and not having a lot of people bidding the spear, this really has hurt us over the years and caused a lot of noise among some of the drivers as well. So I just wanted to make sure I bring it forward as they had requested me to do, and see how you guys feel about it.
Okay, we'll talk. I mean, I know this is one of the items that we've had some discussion back and forth on our end, so we'll talk about it in our caucus. I appreciate the clarification.
Okay. That is it for the regular. So we'll dive into our supervisory. Again, 5 days, internal posting only, and notifying the union that the position will not be filled. So it's the same issue that you saw twice already. Next is our food service manager supplements. So we have 2 slides here for a change with how these are provided, and really what we're looking here to do here is to, you know, really pay the people who are doing the work, and make sure that, you know, just because someone doesn't have a certain title but are doing the work, are missing out on that pay. So school here, Article 10, Section 2, school food service managers. So striking who successfully complete the 16-week manager intern program, but to say basically school food service managers, as well as those who are working in the capacity of a school food service manager on a temporary basis, because we do have that happening right now, would be eligible for these supplements right here. And because of staff shortages, again, you know, we've seen this. There are instances where someone has to fill in in this capacity, and receive, you know, they might receive the out of classification, but they also should be eligible to receive this. So this is where Ms. Monbleu wanted to make sure that they're being paid equitably if they're doing the job.
Great.
Questions?
No, we have the union has a proposal on Article 10, Section 2 as well, but, you know, I don't have any initial responses or questions about this one. Thank you.
Okay, we're stick in this one for Section 2 further on down for these supplement this supplement as well. So as again, school food service managers, as well as those who are working in the capacity of a school food service manager on a temporary basis. So basically just the same as what we saw before, but to make sure that, you know, they're receiving these supplements as well as the other.
Understood.
All right. Next is the tool allowance. So through some of the research that I went through, Shane brought forward this issue that it was, I guess, agreed upon. I think the date was back in 2019, that something was agreed that the tools allowance would be in the supervisory contract, but it never looks like it was updated. So this is really just to clean up a mistake that was, you know, that Shane found. to make sure that, you know, they shall receive their annual tool allowance of $300 as well.
Yeah, we noticed that as well. I know a few months ago we had conversations with the district and that this was paid, so credit to the district.
Yes.
And obviously for our folks for pointing that out. The union's proposal today actually has a proposal around this to fix that as well. So I'm glad both parties are looking at that. I do think we had decided to increase the amount, but that won't shock you.
All right. Yeah, no, there was something we were, you know, we did research this. We saw that it was, and, you know, Mr. Bogus did make sure that we want to move forward with paying this out. So we can hear yours in a little bit. I think that was it. So now we're back into some of the responses for the proposals that you had from last meeting. So the retention supplements and salary, again, we're not ready to really discuss you know, what we're able to do here until we get our financial outlook for the upcoming school year. Sick leave. You had asked to increase the sick leave credit from 4 to 5 days at the end of the first month of employment of each contract year. This language is pulled directly from the state statute, and so we're just really not able to move here to increase that to 5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Annual leave. I know you and I discussed this a little bit yesterday.
Yep.
And I did do some research and I did find some information in some of the files here. And believe me, I got plenty of files to go through. So I'm trying, but I did find some files from, I think it might have been maybe your last bargaining session or the one prior to that, where this was a topic. And so give me some time to review that. And maybe in our next meeting, I'll be ready to see what was out there or what was already discussed.
Yeah, yeah. Per our conversation, the union brought this up with Miss Evans-Perret, and I know that from the union's perspective, we were looking to do something that maintained that benefit, meaning accrued leave for our folks, that would not just evaporate back into the general fund, and it kind of went to the BenCor discussion because the district already utilizes BenCor to provide services, you know, in particular leave banks. So it kind of went around BenCor and can they do it, or do they have the mechanisms to do it, or how much administrative manpower would be utilized for this in that instance. But I do want to, I guess, stress, while we referenced BenCor as the most likely delivery of that service, the union's not tied to it being a BenCor specific delivery. It could be any number of options, whether that would be to extend deadlines. You know, obviously a payout would be even more ideal, but that's not necessarily always the solution that is able to be performed by both parties. But you know, we like the idea of putting it into BenCor because the district already has it, but we would be absolutely amenable for any other mechanisms so long as it preserved that benefit for our members.
Understood.
Okay. And that would be for all of the agreements as well. That's not
understood. Yep. You also brought paraprofessional 2 and early childhood professionals, section 2, working out of classification. So what you were looking for here is that if the early childhood professional or a paraprofessional, when a teacher is absent, performs the duty of the teacher, will be paid the supplement for the length of the assignment.
Yep.
So I did some research with MJ Steele and her team, and for one, it would have to be an ECP, right? The paraprofessional is not able to be leading this classroom, and they would have to be the classrooms that have 2 ECPs, because by their grant they have to have 2 people in these classrooms. So you wouldn't be able to have, let's just say you had a teacher and ECP, and the teacher is not there, and you can't pay the ECP as a teacher and use the money from the teacher fund, right, to pay the increase to the ECP, because then you also won't be able to have a substitute, and you need 2 people. So there are certain positions, the Head Start classes, and I believe she said there were 26 of them throughout the district, where there are 2 ECPs in the classroom. And so if a teacher was, maybe not out for an extended period of time, or the position was vacant because of turnover, certain reasons like that, that one of the ECPs could step in and receive that out of classification. They did talk about qualifications, and if you have 2 ECPs, well, how do you select, who do you select, and all of that, you start getting into that conversation. So they gave some credential that you must have a qualifying ECP credential, the VPK lead teacher requirements. I guess it's everything except for the Florida Educator Certificate, and be selected by principal or designee. So that was what we discussed yesterday.
Okay, so
Ms. Walker?
Yeah, go ahead. Or Miss Berry and Carrie.
This is Miss Berry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the qualifications that they're saying, all that has happened in the classroom that I am presently working in now. I have been selected to be that person. So how does that go about finding out if and when I am going to receive that supplement pay?
That's a good question. Well, I believe we can look into that and get back to you on that. But you're saying you're doing this right now?
I have been doing it since November, the end of November.
Is there another ECP in the classroom?
Yes, there's the present classroom that I'm working in. There's 2 ECPs, my coworker and myself. There's just us 2. There's 3 people in each classroom here. This is a Head Start program here, and we're not the only classroom that's having that situation right now. There's actually this classroom and another classroom here at Village Academy.
So what we're talking about here is negotiating for this to be in effect, is what I'm assuming, right?
Yes.
This is what you're requesting. I'll have to talk with MJ and my team to really discuss what we can do here. But I do know that she is on board with making sure that she does feel that you should be paid when you're assuming that those extra duties. So
okay, thank you.
Great. Thanks for waiting on that, Tamika. I know, Carrie, you had your hand up as well on this, but I do have a comment when, no? Okay. Yeah, so, Tim, one of the things that you had referenced would be, and I'll say this, I like I like that the district is meeting us where we're at in this proposal. I do think it recognizes that there are circumstances that, necessitate an additional payment for the role that these ECPs are playing. I guess one sort of devil in the details question I have is, I know obviously with anything with Head Start, it has to be in conjunction with the law and the grant. It's not just, subject to the whims of the district like other items might be. But I guess in terms of us, working on this and crafting an agreement on this particular provision would be, when there's what would constitute a long-term absence of the teacher one? Are we looking at sort of a 30-day, 60-day, 90-day FMLA sort of leave? Because I would want to capture what is the lowest level of leave, because obviously we don't want to arbitrarily deny our ECPs the ability to be, lead teachers simply if we hadn't, checked what the statutes were on it.
I understand. I will have to research that and get back to you. So you're asking, when would this go in? How many days does the person have to, consecutive days does the person have to be out before this would start getting paid?
Yeah, the lowest amount allowable by the grant and by any HHS or Head Start regulations. Obviously, if it's a 1 day, for example, if you have a teacher one who goes out on maternity leave, and they're out, they're taking FMLA, they're out. If there is no prohibition on it, occurring that next day, we would seek that.
Understood.
And obviously, we'll talk about this with our ECP pairs.
Yep. Yeah. We're still looking into what you had requested about eliminating B and C for the attendance policy in the regular contract. On the attendance fail to meet the standards, that you're basically asking for extenuating circumstances beyond his or her control. Our concern with that is really getting into evaluating extenuating circumstances.
Sure.
That's a difficult thing to do, and we struggled with that in our discussion and understand, well, what is and what isn't, and one person might say, yeah, that is, and another person might say, no, that's not. So I'm not sure if you could provide some examples of both extenuating and non-extenuating, but that's something that to really go any further with any discussion about that, I think we'd have to hear what exactly we're talking about here, because it just from our standpoint, getting into evaluating that is not something we'd be really willing to do.
Mm-hmm. Without basically defining what are those extenuating circumstances. Yeah, some of this was, as you'll see, we struck out the bereavement leave as being, because obviously you can't pick when your relatives pass and you have to honor them. That would be one of them, but there are other scenarios which we'll talk about with our committee and get back to you some specifics.
Okay, great. All right, on Article 14, Section 1B, bus attendants selecting routes. When bus drivers are moved, the attendant does not get moved. Union would like attendants to bid on new routes. So from what I got from transportation in the agreement was that they can. I'm not sure exactly. I'm not sure I understand what this request is.
We were seeking to mirror the process by which bus drivers also follow, but we can elaborate further after we caucus.
Okay. The additional assignment. So is this request for both drivers and attendants?
Yes, sir. It's basically recognizing that the shortage of driver has required both school bus drivers and bus attendants to pick up so many more additional runs, adding stress, adding drive time, adding, more work and responsibility to them. It's made to encompass both groups.
Okay. So again, since this is really increasing the wages, it is something we're not able to really dig into yet to know if this is feasible. This is, though, right now they get 2 hours, right?
Well, yeah. So let me go back to this because I have it on. I can't look at my screen with it. So if you look at right now in the collective bargaining agreement, under Section 3A, it states that, quote, if it becomes necessary to assign a bus driver / bus attendant an additional assignment, including middays, activities, and/or field trips, and it begins during the employee's regular working hours, the district will pay that employee for all additional hours worked to complete that additional assignment. So basically, if the worker is cramming going from what used to be the regular workload work day, but instead now, because there aren't enough drivers and attendants around the district, they're just flying. They're hitting school after school, pickup, drop off. And yet they recognize that they're doing so much more in terms of their productivity, yet they're not typically earning any more pay because of that. And effectively, from the macro standpoint, the district is effectively saving money by not paying the regular wages of those who would normally be fulfilling those positions without them. Obviously, if it's something that happens before or after their regular shift, they're going to get the 2 hours.
Okay.
So it's basically a recognizing that the increased workload and responsibility on those who are here should result in some additional pay for these workers.
Okay. We will we'll take a deeper look at that then.
Yeah, and any of our transportation folks can give an example of that, feel free.
All right. Personally, Article 22. Garrett. Go ahead, Garrett.
Go ahead, Garrett. I think he might be muted.
You're on mute, Garrett.
There we go. I'm sorry.
No worries.
My big old fat fingers. I have trouble getting this thing clicked on. This is happening a lot, and I'll speak up for a lot of people in East, and I'm sure it's happening in other compounds as well. We have multiple drivers that not only are running our routes, and some of us aren't even running our bidded routes that we bid on. Our routes have been broken down and condensed with other people's routes, and we've received other routes and we're running them because of just not having enough people to work them. So that's what that was about, is compensating folks for the extra work they're having to do. I'm not sure if Mr. Roberts is still on here, but Mr. Roberts has countless routes that he runs 4 or 5 in a day. Miss Walker, she's not on here talking either, but in a day they're picking up multiple routes and running them as well. So I'm speaking from an East standpoint, but I'm sure if you go to Central and some of the other places, they're just as short as we are and running the same thing.
Got it. Okay. Thanks, Garrett. Personal leave. So I guess I need a little more understanding about management may not question the reason an employee seeks to utilize his or her personal leave. And then strike requests for a personal leave may be denied in the judgment of the superintendent. Such leave will disrupt the school or department. So on the information that you're requesting to add, I'm it's a little easier to understand why you might not want to provide that, right? On striking that personal leave might be denied, I don't think we're really able to meet you there, just because it just might result in our inability to provide these critical functions throughout our schools and departments. So there could be a case where we have to, or else we can't operate. So I just didn't see that we were able to really strike that. But I do want to hear a little bit more about not questioning the reason.
Carrie, I see your hand up, and I know that you've got a comment on this. Go ahead, Carrie. You're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I have my hands up. I agree with what Garrett said about the extra work and all the drivers that are coming to work every day. We all spare, but they feel like they all are spare drivers right now in all the facilities, not just the East, because I've been speaking with Cassandra, I've been speaking with Miss Jackie, and Miss Jackie Griffin been getting complaints at the North Compound about the drivers covering all the other drivers' routes and have not, they're actually not getting compensated what they're worth. That's how I'm gonna put it. And like Mr. Garrett said, in in the mornings, I cover, all the schools because I'm what they consider a driver two spare. So not only am I a driver, I also works with the office staff and assist them. So therefore, I drive anywhere from 5 to 6 hours in the morning trying to get students to school, and the same thing in the afternoon. And this is what the drivers and the attendants are saying. They're riding these routes all day, but they're not getting compensated for the work that they're doing. So we put that in to, try to get on some type of mind, they don't feel like they working and not getting their work. That part, underpaid. So that's why that was put in there, and to help people to understand, we appreciate what they do. We appreciate them coming to work every day, because as the other side, you all on the district side are saying about the absenteeism, and that have a lot to do with it. And then it's a 50-50. But the people that are
We lost
coming
you.
to work and still standing strong, they should be paid.
Understood. Thank you.
And to thank you, Carrie, for adding that. Regarding the Article 22, Section 9 provision, I think you had on your screen. So what we've heard from some of our workers, many in transportation, is that they seek to use time off, which they're allotted, and that they basically have to, argue it in a way just to simply get a day off against their coordinator or their supervisor. And if they don't argue their case well enough, the employers or the representative for the employer denies them that time, or threatens to write them up for using that time. And so this was effectively made to take out much of the subjectivity, and also employees don't want to lie about why they're not able to make it into work. Life happens sometimes, and they don't want to have to hear like, well, can't you get your grandma to babysit, or can't you get this to happen, or that. And they just want to take a day off, as they should be allotted to. Go ahead, Lehman. Lehman, you're muted.
With Article 22, Section 9, my response to that is, I know when it comes to annual time, that could disrupt if a employee would like to have multiple days off, like a week. Let's say during the summertime when the custodial team have to clean or get the school back to running conditions for next year. If a custodian put in to take a week off using annual time, that could disrupt the workflow for the summer. But when it comes to personal leave, that's only 3 days, if that's right. I don't see how that disrupts. If a employee takes 1 day off, how that disrupts the flow of the district. If a person needs a mental day so that they can recoup from a stressful week or a stressful day, is what I wanted to add.
Understood. I will bring that back to the team to have a discussion on further thoughts on that. that request from you. Okay.
Super.
All right. Salary compression issue with bus drivers. To address that, again, we're looking into this along with all the other wage-related changes. We're just not ready to bring that forward. School food service, adding more 6-hour food service positions for employees to get benefits. Right now, we're just not considering an increase in the number of these positions. I'm not sure if that will ever change, but as of right now, in discussion with the team, that's not something we're considering doing. In the equalized pay comparison for drivers to review paycheck, you claim that some drivers are saying it's hard to tell, I guess, if they're being paid correctly, and so a calculator to determine the check amount was requested. So we are looking into that and to see what kind of tool we can maybe provide to make it easier to do that. What I'd ask is that what is it that make sure we have all the specific requirements, I guess, that if we were going to make something to be able to show what that you should be paid, if you could provide us with any requirements of what needs to be considered when doing that, if there's any special requirements on your side, that is.
I remember when we discussed this back in December. It was more of trying to figure out, is there some sort of engine in the district's internet system that we could effectively have an employee enter, and this would obviously be for any employee whose wages are equalized, their amount of hours worked for that day or week, right? And showing, a component would have to be, if you're missing time, it's going to obviously be a little different, but it would make sure that it takes into account hours worked in a pay period, and any amount of overtime. It just allows the worker to show, at least to be, for lack of a better word, allows the worker to see how that is calculated in taking their hour for hour pay, meaning you work an hour, you get paid an hour, and what the net payment would be, for any overtime, et cetera, and just effectively show the work, if that can be done. We're not trying to get into some sort of like blackboard full of algebraic expressions, but effectively, like, give somebody the ability to say, if I'm an employee who doesn't miss a lot of time, in this pay period I worked 80 hours or 83 or what have you, that they could plug their wage into that metric, and it would show them what they can expect on their next check. And obviously, if there needs to be an asterisk saying, roughly this is the amount, because obviously FICA and other deductions are going to occur.
Right. Okay. We are looking into that, so we'll see what we can get you. And that's all that we have. So I think you have some other things you wanted to discuss.
Yes. Before I move into that, does anybody from my side have any other questions, either about the proposals from the district that are new here today that we haven't yet seen, or any of the responses to our proposals from the district? If not, we'll go into ours and then we'll discuss after.
Okay, Joey?
Go ahead, Donna. You went muted again, Donna. Your hand's up.
I want some table something and I'll discuss it later.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I'm just gonna also say we really don't have much time. We had a minute or so, but we can come back to next meeting. I know a lot of people have other commitments, is what I'm saying. So
sure,
be having to drop off at 1. So.
Well, I mean, do you have time for me to put my proposals down?
Yes.
Cool. And we need to mute. Oh, thanks, Greg. 39. See, under Zoom, I have the ability to mute folks. I don't have that ability with this one.
Yeah, I didn't create it, so I don't either.
561 ending in 39. Can you mute your phone? Thank you. All right. Let me see. I don't have the ability to present, do I? Okay, I'm going to ask to do that now. Give me 1 second.
Can you please mute yourself? The person who's speaking, can you mute yourself, please? Thank you.
All right, here come my proposals. All right, can you see?
Yes, yes.
Someone's in the restroom. If you can mute your phone, that'd be ideal. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. As referenced, the union sets some proposals. I'm going to go through them relatively quickly, and then I'll obviously send them over to the district. Additionally, Tim, can you send me your proposals
Yes.
for review? Thank you. Ms. Washington has a question, I believe.
Yeah, if you could just, can you maximize the screen so it's a little bigger?
Let me see what I can do.
I think you mean like the browser window, like so.
Yeah.
I can do that. Hold on.
You could probably drag the bottom corner just a little wider.
There you go.
There you go. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Okay, so one of the things we've noted in our comparison of contracts is that the vehicle maintenance incentive program, the ASC certifications at the school district, I know that a lot of our workers are telling us that it's not enough of a meaningful incentive for folks to want to do it, right? So we've looked, nearby, and one of the ones that we found that would, amounted to something much more substantial and meaningful was one from the Miami-Dade School District, the ASC Certification Program. And so we basically have taken those specific terms and replaced the current ASC certification system with one that mirrors that one for all of our equipment mechanic 1, 2, and 3s, and our paint and body mechanics 1 and 2. And you'll see this in the supervisory proposal as well. One component which makes it, obviously, it's more of a benefit that makes it more attractive for our folks is that it, rather than providing an annual lump increase, it actually provides a base incentive so that it gives people the capacity to keep that incentive up to date as not to lose base pay rate.
Okay.
And just the language replacing it. In Article 11, Section 3, this is something we had discussed in previous rounds. We know that obviously with staff shortages, there's been a need to have people work in a higher classification. I think you and your food service manager's proposal echoed that sentiment, right? But I do know that we've always sought to reduce the number of days that require an employee to work in a higher classification. And there are instances that we've heard through the years where employee is working, 6, 7, 8, 9 days in a higher classification, and yet because they didn't hit that magical 10th day, that they were ineligible for that higher class pay. So we will, recognizing that, trying to move the ball down the field, we would ideally love to have it be any work in a higher classification, but we do recognize that coming down from 10 to 5 is a lot more palatable from our perspective and might be shared by the district.
Okay.
And then you'll see, as referenced earlier, the tool allowance. We've also added transportation helpers because I believe those workers are also responsible to bring their own tools. I believe they were just not in the agreement prior. And as referenced, I also wanted to increase that incentive. $600 is something that I've seen as pretty much the industry standard in a lot of our municipal units. It's not just let's double it. And one other component that we've sought was recognizing that there was no specific date at which it was paid to the employee, and we wanted to establish a practice by which the employer and the employees recognize when this allotment is going to be paid. In addition, we did notice that in the supervisory agreement, there is a what do we call that? A reimbursement program for tools that we wanted to have captured by our fleet mechanics as well. And you'll see that language pretty much mirrors it. The one other component that we have added is that when the district has agreed to reimburse an employee for that tool, we've had instances in which it's taken 3, 4, 5 months, and we would obviously love to have that sped up, because an employee going out of pocket, to buy a specific tool to work on a vehicle might not be able to stay without that money coming back to them quickly.
Got it.
Okay.
Yep.
We referenced the Article 22, Section 1 and 2 is our previous proposal, and you had responded to that here today. And we did send you that may not question the leave. We also struck out the conditions around holidays that would basically, one of the arguments we've had from our employees is that for workers who are not receiving quote unquote holiday pay, yet they're basically being treated as if they are, in terms of if they miss a very specific day before or after a holiday, or they're effectively blacked out of periods around Thanksgiving break, winter break, or spring break, it's effectively allowing them not to utilize their leave and holding them to a standard of holiday pay, which they do not currently benefit from.
Okay.
And then in Article 36, this would be sort of in conjunction with the 6-month school food service workers shifts. So here's one thing that we've noticed obviously, I think that's indicative of the times we're in, that employees are effectively hired under a presumption of 4 hours of shift. Yet, if you look at their number of hours they've actually worked, and this is sort of that, like, you're hired as a 4-hour employee, yet the district wants to give you more and more and more hours. That employee, if they're working enough hours that would constitute giving them a 5-hour or 6-hour shift, it's just not on the books or in the system as such, they should be reclassified to reflect the true amount of hours that they're really working. Now, I do know that there's going to be some components here around Affordable Care Act, 30 hours a week metric. And so our proposal is trying to show, if you hit a certain metric, you should be benefit eligible, because for all intents and purposes, you're not a 4-hour employee anymore.
Okay.
Okay. And that's all we have as far as new proposals for the regular group. For supervisory, can you see that? I believe you can. Make it bigger. As referenced, we wanted to update the ASC certification, and for our vehicle maintenance 4 persons and paint and body 4 persons, mirroring that similar ASC program.
Okay.
Replacing the previous one.
Yep.
And then in Article 10, Section 2, under the food service managers, I remember, the district had put forth a proposal as well. We do have a number of food service managers, and I like that the district recognized that there are people, jumping up into a higher classification, and we should reward them. We agree with the district in that regard. In addition, there are a multitude of food service managers who are in addition to running the one school which they've historically ran, and I mean an actual Palm Beach County school, they're fulfilling all of the terms and conditions of running an additional school, which means extra management, extra scheduling, extra ordering. And for those food service managers who are performing all of those duties, some of it obviously is going to require more hours on their part, and some is requiring just a significant amount of organization on their part. The district is effectively getting 2 food service managers for the price of 1. And for the worker who's willing and able to keep grinding in this manner and providing these additional duties to the district, we think they should receive an additional amount of compensation for that. So we've put forth an additional 50% of their base salary for the duration of how long they're assigned to do those duties, which under the circumstances is, you know, a bargain for the district if they're able to maintain that.
Okay.
In Article 13, you'll see reference that the tool allowance back to 600, and then the same reimbursement language in the regular.
Got it.
And I believe that's it.
Okay. You can send those to me, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'd love to leave it open for questions, but I do know that we're already beyond our time. So some people might be dropping off the call right now for other commitments. Mr. Fields, though, if you got something really quick.
Yes, my question is, with this being recorded,
yes,
will it be emailed to us, or is there a certain location we should go to be able to watch this again?
I can respond to the email group. They're normally put on YouTube, on the district channel on YouTube. So when I get that link, I'll forward it to the group.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Well, thank you all for taking the time to meet today. I know everybody's busy, but I appreciate your preparation, your input, and everything you do for us. So, excuse me, we will continue to review these requests. And Mr. Brenner might be reaching out to ask for some clarification on some things as we work through this. But a future meeting will be scheduled, and we will see you then.
Appreciate that. Tim, I'm going to reach out to, is Ms. Shaw your direct help, schedule assistant?
Caitlin, yes.
Caitlin, okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yep.
I will email you and her around getting some dates on the books. Again, I apologize for, not being able to be there in person for everybody.
Not a problem at all. All right. Well, thank you again for everybody, and have a great day.
All right, thank you.
All right.
My side, I'll schedule a follow-up meeting with you guys.